The alien general slapped the human cadet. She broke his wrist in 4 seconds. The Academy's main arena had never been so full. Every seat was occupied by cadets, officers, diplomats, and journalists from across coalition space. Floating camera drones circled overhead, broadcasting to billions of viewers on hundreds of worlds. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Una stood in the preparation room doing stretches to keep her muscles warm. She wore a simple combat suit designed for movement rather than protection. This was a test of skill, not armor. Commander Hyun Lee was with her, along with Jiwon Park, who had insisted on being there for moral support. "Remember what we practiced," Commander Hyun Lee said. He was adjusting the tape on Yuna's hands, making sure her joints were properly supported. Draknari have thick scales but weak points at the joints. Their tail is a weapon but also a balance point. If you control the tail, you control their movement. "I remember," Una said. They had spent 2 weeks preparing for this. Long hours in the training hall, studying recordings of Draknari combat styles, practicing against holographic opponents. She was as ready as she could be. Jiwon Park handed her a water bottle. "The whole world is watching." No pressure or anything, Una managed a weak smile. "Thanks for reminding me." "You can do this," Jiwon said seriously. "You're the toughest person I know. And you're not alone. Every human in the galaxy is with you right now." A buzzer sounded. It was time. Commander Hyun Lee squeezed her shoulder once, then stepped back. "Go show them what we're made of." Una walked through the tunnel toward the arena floor. The roar of the crowd grew louder with each step. When she emerged into the bright lights, the noise was overwhelming. Thousands of voices in dozens of languages all focused on her. She took a deep breath and walked to the center of the arena. On the opposite side, General Vector emerged. He looked even bigger than she remembered. 7 feet tall, covered in dark green scales that gleamed under the lights. His yellow eyes locked onto hers as he approached. His wrist was healed now, fully functional. There would be no excuses this time. The referee, a neutral Corvani official, stood between them. "This is a sanctioned combat duel. The rules are simple. Fight continues until one combatant yields or is unable to continue. No weapons. No permanent harm. Medical staff are standing by. Do you both understand?" "Yes," Una said. "I understand," General Vector rumbled. "Then take your positions." They moved to opposite sides of the combat circle. Una could feel her heart pounding, but her breathing was steady. This was just like training. Just like hundreds of sparring matches she had done before. Except this time, the entire galaxy was watching. The referee raised his hand. "Begin!" General Vector did not charge immediately like Una expected. Instead, he circled slowly, studying her. He had learned from their first encounter. He was not going to underestimate her again. Una mirrored his movement, keeping the distance constant. She watched his footwork, the position of his tail, the angle of his shoulders. Looking for patterns. Looking for openings, the general made the first move. A fast strike with his right hand, testing her reactions. Una slipped to the side, feeling the air move as his clawed fingers passed inches from her face. Fast. He was much faster than during their first encounter. He had been holding back in the training hall that day. She countered with a low kick aimed at his knee joint. He blocked it with his shin, scales absorbing the impact. They separated again, circling. The crowd was silent now, everyone focused on the two fighters. This was not the quick, explosive encounter of their first meeting. This was chess played with fists and feet. Both combatants were being careful, methodical. Vector attacked again, this time a combination. Punch high, sweep low with his tail. Una jumped over the tail sweep but had to block the punch with both forearms. The impact sent her sliding backward. He was strong. Much stronger than her, but strength was not everything. Speed mattered. Timing mattered. Technique mattered. She pressed forward, using quick jabs to keep him defensive. Most of her strikes bounced off his scales harmlessly, but she was not trying to hurt him yet. She was learning his rhythm, his patterns. Every fighter had them. 2 minutes passed. Then 3. Both fighters were breathing harder now. Vector's tail lashed back and forth, a sign of frustration. He was used to shorter fights where his strength could dominate. But Una kept moving, kept circling, refusing to let him corner her. He changed tactics, becoming more aggressive. A powerful overhead strike that Una barely dodged. His fist hit the arena floor and cracked the reinforced material. The crowd gasped. If that punch had connected with her head, the fight would be over. But aggression created openings. Yuna saw one and took it. As he pulled his fist back from the ground, his guard was momentarily low. She moved in fast, driving her knee into his ribs where the scales were thinner. She felt the impact, felt him grunt in pain. He retaliated immediately, swinging his tail at her legs. It connected, and Yuna went down hard. Before she could roll away, he was on her, trying to pin her with his weight. This was bad. If he got a solid hold, his strength advantage would end the fight. Yuna twisted using a technique called shrimping that Commander Hyun Lee had drilled into her for hours. She created space, got her legs between them, and kicked hard at his chest. He stumbled back, giving her time to get to her feet. Her leg throbbed where his tail had hit her. It would bruise badly, but she pushed the pain aside. Pain was information. It told her what to protect, but it did not control her. They clashed again, closer now. Yuna could not afford to let him use his reach advantage. She moved inside his guard, targeting nerve clusters and joint weak points that Commander Hyun Lee had mapped out. Quick strikes to the inside of his elbows, his wrists, the soft tissue behind his knees. None of the strikes were powerful enough to seriously hurt him, but they added up. She was making him uncomfortable, making him reactive instead of proactive. 5 minutes into the fight, Yuna was tiring. Her breathing was labored, her movements slightly slower, but Vector was tiring too. His attacks were less coordinated now, more desperate. He was not used to opponents who could match his endurance. He lunged forward with both arms, trying to grab her in a bear hug. If he caught her, his strength would crush her ribs. Yuna dropped low, sliding under his arms. As she passed beneath him, she grabbed his tail. This was the moment Commander Hyun Lee had prepared her for. The tail was powerful but also delicate. It contained important nerves and smaller bones. She twisted hard, pulling him off balance. Vector roared and spun, trying to dislodge her grip. But Yuna held on, using his own momentum against him. She wrapped her legs around the tail for leverage and applied pressure to a joint halfway down its length. The general tried to reach her but could not twist far enough. He tried to slam backward to crush her against the ground, but she rolled with the impact and maintained her grip. The tail joint bent at an angle it was not designed to bend. "Yield," she shouted, not wanting to break it. "General, yield!" For a long moment, nothing happened. The crowd was silent. Vector stood frozen, his tail trapped in a lock he could not break. His pride fought against the reality of the situation. Then slowly he tapped his hand against his leg 3 times. The signal of surrender. Yuna released immediately and rolled away, getting to her feet at a safe distance. Her whole body ached. Her leg throbbed. Her ribs hurt from where she had landed hard during the roll. But she was standing, and General Vector was looking at her with an expression she could not quite read. The referee raised his hand. "Winner, Cadet Yuna Kim." The arena erupted. Human cadets were screaming and cheering. Even some of the alien observers were applauding. The noise was deafening. Yuna tried to walk toward her corner, but her leg nearly gave out. Commander Hyun Lee and medical staff rushed onto the arena floor. But before they reached her, General Vector walked over. He looked down at her, his yellow eyes intense. Then he did something no one expected. He dropped to one knee, bringing his eyes level with hers. "You are a true warrior," he said, his voice carrying despite the crowd noise. "I was wrong about your species. I was wrong about you. You have my respect, Cadet Kim. You have my honor." In Draknari culture, this was the highest praise a warrior could give. It meant more than any medal or award. The crowd went silent again, understanding the significance of the moment. Yuna was not sure what to say. Her mind was still buzzing with adrenaline, her body screaming with pain. So she did the only thing that felt right. She offered her hand. General Vector looked at it for a moment, then carefully took it in his clawed hand. They shook, human and Draknari, in a gesture of mutual respect. The crowd went absolutely wild. The noise was so loud that it hurt Yuna's ears. Camera drones zoomed in, broadcasting this moment to billions of beings across the galaxy. Medical staff checked both fighters. Yuna had bruised ribs, a badly bruised leg, and various minor cuts and scrapes. Nothing serious. General Vector had soreness throughout his body and a mildly strained tail joint. Also nothing serious. They had both held back just enough to avoid permanent damage while still fighting at full intensity. In the medical bay, Yuna sat on an examination table while a doctor treated her injuries. The alien general slapped the human cadet. She broke his wrist in 4 seconds. The training hall was massive, built to hold cadets from 30 different species. Yuna Kim stood in the center of the combat ring, sweat dripping down her face. She had been demonstrating hand-to-hand techniques for the past hour. Around her, 200 cadets watched from the tiered seats. Some had scales, some had feathers, and some looked almost human, but with strange colored skin or extra eyes. General Vektar circled around her like a predator. He was a Draknari, a species that looked like 7-foot-tall reptiles covered in dark green scales. His yellow eyes watched her every move. The general had fought in 40 wars across the galaxy. Everyone feared him. Everyone respected him. But right now he seemed angry. Again, he commanded, his voice deep and rough. Show the defensive position against a larger opponent. Yuna took her stance. Her legs were shoulder-width apart, knees slightly bent, hands up but not clenched. It was the standard defensive position taught at the Galactic Coalition Military Academy. She had done this 1,000 times before. This is wrong, General Vektar said suddenly. He stopped pacing and pointed at her feet. Your stance is too narrow. Against a Draknari warrior, you would be crushed in seconds. Yuna kept her voice respectful. Sir, with respect, human anatomy is different. Our center of gravity is lower than Draknari. This stance works for our body structure. The general's eyes narrowed. In the audience, Yuna's friend Jiwon Park tensed. She knew that look. The general did not like being questioned. Are you suggesting that my 40 years of combat experience is wrong, Cadet? His voice was quiet now, which was worse than shouting. No, sir. I'm simply explaining that different species require different techniques. What works for Draknari might not work for humans. The hall went silent. No one spoke when the general was in this mood. Commander Hyun Lee, the human liaison officer, stood up from his seat. He started to move toward the ring, but he was too far away. General Vektar took a step closer to Yuna. You humans have been part of the coalition for only 2 years. 2 years? And you think you know better than those of us who have fought since before your world even had space travel? Sir, I didn't mean... The slap came without warning. General Vektar's clawed hand swung fast and struck Yuna across her left cheek. The sound echoed through the hall like a gunshot. Several cadets gasped. The Draknari cadets looked unsurprised. In their culture, striking subordinates was normal military discipline. But the human cadets looked shocked and angry. Yuna's head snapped to the side from the impact. Her cheek burned. She could taste blood in her mouth. For a moment, everything seemed to slow down. Her training kicked in before her conscious mind could catch up. Move, analyze, react. These were the words drilled into every human soldier from day one. The general was already turning away, thinking the matter was settled. That was his mistake. Yuna's right hand shot out and grabbed his wrist. Her left hand joined it, controlling his arm. She stepped to the side, twisting her whole body. General Vektar's arm bent at an angle it was never meant to bend. He tried to pull away, but Yuna had already shifted her weight. She dropped lower, using leverage instead of strength. The general's massive body began to fall. There were 3 distinct cracking sounds. His wrist bones fractured under the precise pressure. Yuna maintained the joint lock as the general crashed to his knees, roaring in pain. His other hand reached for her, but she was already moving, keeping his broken wrist at an angle that prevented him from using his strength. 4 seconds. That was all it took. The entire hall erupted in chaos. Cadets were shouting in a dozen different languages. Security officers rushed toward the ring. Commander Hyun Lee jumped over 2 rows of seats to reach them faster. Yuna released the general's wrist and stepped back, her hands raised. Her face went pale as reality crashed down on her. What had she just done? She had attacked a superior officer, a general, in front of everyone. General Vektar clutched his wrist, his yellow eyes wide with shock and pain. He stared at Yuna like he was seeing her for the first time. 4 security officers surrounded her, weapons drawn but not pointed. They looked confused. This had never happened before. Cadet Kim, step away from the general, one security officer said. He was a tall, gray-skinned Corvani with 3 eyes. Yuna obeyed immediately, moving to where they indicated. Her hands were shaking now. She could see Commander Hyun Lee pushing through the crowd, his face a mix of concern and something else. Pride? No, that couldn't be right. Jiwon Park tried to reach her friend but was held back by another security officer. Yuna didn't mean to. He hit her first. Silence, the head security officer commanded. He looked at General Vektar, who was being helped to his feet by medical personnel. "General, are you able to walk?" Vektar nodded, still staring at Yuna. There was pain in his expression, but also something else. Confusion? He had fought countless battles against dozens of species. He had never been taken down so quickly by someone a third of his size. "Take Cadet Kim to detention," the security officer ordered. "She is under arrest for assault on a superior officer." Two officers took Yuna's arms, not roughly but firmly. She did not resist. What was the point? Every camera in the hall had recorded what happened. There was no defense. As they led her away, she looked back at the crowd of cadets. The aliens looked shocked or angry, but the humans looked different. Some looked scared, yes, but others looked proud. Commander Hyun Lee finally reached the spot where she had been standing. He caught her eye as she was being taken away. He gave her a small nod. It was quick, barely noticeable, but Yuna saw it. Outside the training hall, Yuna could hear voices echoing behind her. The news was already spreading. Within minutes, it would reach every corner of the academy. Within hours, it would reach every human settlement in Coalition space. Within a day, it would be galactic news, the human cadet who broke a general's wrist in 4 seconds. The detention cell was small and plain. White walls, a simple bed, a sink, and a toilet. Nothing else. Yuna sat on the bed and put her head in her hands. Her cheek still throbbed where the general had struck her. She touched it gently and winced. It would bruise badly. What had she done? This was supposed to be humanity's chance to prove they belonged in the galactic community. Earth had worked so hard to get accepted into the Coalition. Billions of people had celebrated when the first human cadets were allowed to attend the academy. And now she had ruined it. She had attacked a general. They might expel all humans from the military program because of her. They might even expel Earth from the Coalition entirely. The door opened. Commander Hyun Lee entered, and the security officer closed the door behind him. He pulled over the small chair and sat down across from her. "How's your face?" he asked quietly. "It hurts, but I'll be fine." She looked up at him. "Commander, I'm so sorry." "I didn't think. I just reacted. My training just took over and—" He held up a hand, stopping her. "Yuna, listen to me carefully. What happened in that hall was not your fault. The general struck you. That is assault by human law. You defended yourself. But by Draknari law, what he did was legal military discipline, and what I did was attacking a superior officer." Tears were forming in her eyes. "I've destroyed everything." Commander Hyun Lee leaned forward. "You did what any human soldier would do when attacked. You protected yourself with minimal necessary force. Do you know what the medical scan showed? You broke his wrist in exactly the right place. Clean fractures, no permanent damage. If you had wanted to really hurt him, you could have torn his entire arm off." Yuna blinked. She had not thought about that. Her training had been so automatic that she had not even realized she was holding back. "The trial starts tomorrow," the commander continued. "Earth is sending their best military lawyer. Ambassador Daeho Choi is already on his way. This is going to be big, Yuna, really big. The whole galaxy is about to learn what happens when you hit a human." He stood up and walked to the door, then paused. "One more thing. General Vektar asked to see the footage of the incident 3 times. He kept asking the medical staff how you moved so fast. I think you impressed him even though you broke his wrist." After he left, Yuna lay down on the bed. She stared at the white ceiling and wondered what tomorrow would bring. Somewhere out in the galaxy, billions of beings were watching footage of those 4 seconds. Those 4 seconds that changed everything. The alien general slapped the human cadet. She broke his wrist in 4 seconds. The military tribunal chamber looked more like a theater than a courtroom. Curved rows of seats rose up on 3 sides, filled with observers from dozens of species. At the center sat 3 judges behind a tall bench made of dark metal. The middle judge was High Arbiter Thexnull, a Corvani with 3 eyes and gray skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. To his left and right sat 2 other judges from different species. Yuna stood in the defendant's box wearing her cadet uniform. Her left cheek had turned purple and yellow from the bruise. She kept her back straight and her hands at her sides. Next to her stood Captain Min Ji-han, her defense lawyer. The captain was a short woman with sharp eyes and an expression that gave nothing away. Across from them stood the prosecutor, a tall insect-like being called a Clickstar. His name was too complicated for humans to pronounce, so everyone just called him Prosecutor Ven. His multifaceted eyes reflected the light as he organized papers on his desk. The gallery was packed. Yuna could see Jiwon Park in the third row, her face worried. Commander Hyun Lee sat nearby. Ambassador Dae-ho Choi sat in the special diplomatic section, flanked by Earth government representatives. And in the back, looking uncomfortable in his medical sling, sat General Vectar. High Arbiter Thexanal's middle eye focused on a data screen, while his other two eyes scanned the room. This tribunal will now begin. Cadet Yuna Kim of Earth stands accused of assault on a superior officer, conduct unbecoming of a cadet, and actions that may result in Earth's expulsion from coalition military programs. How does the defendant plead? Captain Minji Han stood. Not guilty, Your Honor. We argue self-defense under human legal standards and request the tribunal consider cultural and biological differences in this case. Prosecutor. Ven made a clicking sound that his translator rendered as a scoff. The law is clear. Striking a superior officer is forbidden regardless of circumstance. The defendant's actions were recorded by 17 different cameras. There is no dispute about what happened. We do not dispute the actions, Captain Minji Han replied calmly. We dispute the interpretation of those actions. My client was struck first. She responded according to her training and instincts. Then her training is flawed, Prosecutor Ven said. Perhaps humans are not suitable for military service if they cannot control their violent impulses. Murmurs spread through the gallery. Several human observers looked angry. Ambassador Dae-ho Choi made a small gesture and they quieted down. High Arbiter Thexanal raised one hand. Order. Prosecutor Ven, present your case. The prosecutor activated a holographic display in the center of the room. The footage from the training hall appeared, frozen at the moment before General Vectar struck Yuna. The facts are simple. Cadet Kim questioned General Vectar's instruction. The general administered standard Draknari disciplinary correction. A simple strike to remind the cadet of her place. This is legal under Military Code Section 47, Paragraph 12. He let the footage play. Everyone watched as the general's hand connected with Yuna's face. Then came her response. Even slowed down, her movements were almost too fast to follow. Grab, twist, step, lock. The general's wrist bent. The sound of breaking bone made several observers wince. 4 seconds, Prosecutor Ven said. In 4 seconds, Cadet Kim broke a war hero's wrist in 3 places. She used excessive force against a superior officer. This undermines the entire command structure. If cadets are allowed to attack their superiors when they disagree with discipline, chaos will follow. He turned to face Yuna. The defendant is a trained soldier. She should have controlled herself. Instead, she chose violence. We request full expulsion from the academy and recommend Earth's military program be suspended pending review. The gallery erupted in noise. Humans shouted objections. Some alien observers nodded in agreement with the prosecutor. Others looked uncertain. High Arbiter Thexanal struck his desk with a metal rod, creating a loud ringing sound. Order, Captain Han, your response? Captain Minji Han stood and walked to the center of the room. She was small compared to most beings in the chamber, but she commanded attention. Your Honors, this case is not about military discipline. It is about fundamentally different biological and cultural realities. May I present evidence? Proceed. The captain activated her own display. A medical scan of Yuna appeared, showing her neural pathways highlighted in blue. This is a human nervous system. Note the processing speed. When Cadet Kim was struck, her brain registered the attack in 0.02 seconds. Her body began responding before her conscious mind even fully processed what was happening. This is human biology. We evolved this way. She changed the image to show a comparison with other species. Draknari neural response time is 0.13 seconds. Corvani is 0.08 seconds. Humans are faster than 70% of coalition species. We had to be. Our home world taught us to react quickly or die. This does not excuse violence against a superior. Prosecutor Ven interjected. I'm not finished, Captain Minji Han said firmly. She pulled up Earth's legal codes. In human culture and law, what General Vectar did is not discipline. It is assault. It is a crime. We do not strike each other as punishment. We certainly do not strike subordinates who are in our power and unable to fairly defend themselves. This has been our law for over 200 years. She looked at each judge in turn. Cadet Kim had no way of knowing that the general would strike her. She had no warning. In human society, when someone attacks you without warning, you defend yourself. This is what she did. Her training took over. And note this carefully, Your Honors. She held back. Captain Minji Han zoomed in on the medical scans of General Vektar's injury. These fractures are clean, precise. The medical staff confirmed that with her angle of leverage and the force she applied, Cadet Kim could have torn the general's arm completely off. She could have killed him, but she didn't. Even in the middle of an automatic defensive response, some part of her mind controlled the force. She broke his wrist just enough to stop the threat. Nothing more. This caused a stir in the gallery. Even Prosecutor Venn looked surprised. He examined his own copy of the medical report, his insect eyes scanning rapidly. High Arbiter Thexnall leaned forward. Captain Han, are you suggesting that Cadet Kim's actions were measured and controlled, not excessive? Yes, Your Honor. A human trained in combat has muscle memory that includes force control. If she wanted to cause serious harm, General Vektar would be dead. Instead, he has an injury that will heal completely in 3 weeks. Objection, Prosecutor Venn said. This is speculation. It's medical fact, Captain Minji Han countered. She pulled up another document. I have testimony from Commander Hyun Lee, who trained Cadet Kim. He confirms that human combat training includes strict rules about proportional response. We are taught to use the minimum force necessary to stop a threat. Ambassador Daeho Choi stood in the diplomatic section. Your Honors, may I speak? High Arbiter Thexnall looked annoyed but nodded. The chair recognizes Earth's ambassador. Thank you. I want to make something clear to this tribunal. Earth joined the coalition in good faith. We provided all requested information about our species, our culture, our capabilities. We did not hide anything, but we are still learning your ways, just as you are learning ours. Cadet Kim did not wake up that morning planning to hurt anyone. She is a good soldier who reacted to an unexpected attack in the only way her training allowed. To punish her for this is to punish her for being human. The ambassador sat down. High Arbiter Thexnall made notes on his datapad. The other 2 judges whispered to each other in a language the translators did not pick up. We will hear from General Vektar, the High Arbiter announced. Everyone turned as the general stood. His right arm was in a medical sling that glowed slightly with healing energy. He walked to the center of the chamber with careful dignity. When he spoke, his voice was quieter than usual. I have fought for 40 years. I have faced enemies that would give you nightmares. I have commanded troops in battles across 100 worlds. He paused and looked directly at Yuna. I have never been defeated so quickly by an opponent half my size. It was humiliating. Yuna felt her stomach drop. This was it. He was going to demand maximum punishment. But, the general continued, I have had 3 days to think while my wrist heals. I have watched the footage many times. I have read the reports, and I have come to a conclusion. He turned to face the judges. I was wrong. Gasps echoed through the chamber. A Draknari general admitting fault was almost unheard of. I struck the cadet without warning. In Draknari culture, this is normal. But she is not Draknari. She is human. I did not consider her cultural context or her biological reality. I treated her as I would treat one of my own people. That was my error, not hers. Prosecutor Venn looked like he wanted to object but could not find the words. General Vektar continued. The cadet defended herself with skill and control. If our positions were reversed, if a Draknari cadet had been struck by a human superior without warning, I would expect that cadet to respond with force. Why should I expect less from Cadet Kim? She is a warrior. She acted like one. He turned back to Yuna and did something that shocked everyone in the room. He bowed his head slightly, a gesture of respect in Draknari culture. I asked this toward the alien general slapped the human cadet. She broke his wrist in 4 seconds. Investigator Ralvin stood in the arrival terminal of Earth's main spaceport, feeling deeply uncomfortable. He was a click star, an insect-like species known for their methodical thinking and attention to detail. His multifaceted eyes took in everything at once. The bright lights, the crowds of humans rushing past, the noise. So much noise. A woman approached him, smiling. She was small by most species standards, with dark hair pulled back in a professional style. Investigator Ralvin? I'm Dr. Soranam, xenobiologist and your guide during the investigation. Welcome to Earth. Ralvin made the clicking sound that served as his people's greeting. His translator converted it to words. Thank you, Doctor. I am eager to begin my assessment of human military capabilities. Dr. Soranam's smile did not quite reach her eyes. Of course, though I should warn you, what you're about to learn may be surprising. Humans are not what most coalition species expect. They took a transport vehicle to a military base outside the city. During the ride, Dr. Sora Nam talked about Earth's history, its geography, its place in the solar system. Ralvin recorded everything, his analytical mind sorting and categorizing the information. Your planet has higher gravity than galactic standard, he observed. 0.8 higher according to my instruments. That's correct. Earth is what we call a heavy gravity world. Our bodies adapted to it over millions of years. It's one reason our bone density is higher than most species. Ralvin made more notes. Higher bone density would explain how the human cadet broke General Vectar's wrist so easily, but that was just one piece of the puzzle. At the military base, General Quan waited for them. He was an older human male with gray hair and a stern face. Investigator, I understand you're here to evaluate whether humans misrepresented our abilities when we applied to join the coalition. That is correct, General. The tribunal wants to know if your species is more dangerous than your application indicated. General Quan's expression did not change. We provided accurate information, but perhaps we didn't realize how different we are. Dr. Nam will show you our standard training programs. You'll have full access to our medical data, our physical testing results, everything you need. Over the next week, Ralvin learned things that both fascinated and disturbed him. He watched human soldiers train in combat. Their movements were fast, much faster than he expected. They could react to threats in fractions of a second. They could run for hours without stopping. They could lift objects twice their body weight. But it was not just their physical abilities that surprised him. It was their attitude toward pain and injury. During one training session, he watched two soldiers practicing something called hand-to-hand combat. They punched each other, kicked each other, threw each other to the ground. One soldier's nose started bleeding. Ralvin immediately called for medical assistance, but the humans just laughed. It's fine, the bleeding soldier said, wiping his nose. Just a little blood. We can keep going. You are injured, Ralvin insisted. You need medical treatment. Dr. Sora Nam, who was observing with him, shook her head. Investigator, a bloody nose is not considered a serious injury for humans. We heal quickly from minor damage. Our bodies are designed to take punishment and keep functioning. This was his first real shock. But it would not be his last. He examined human medical data and was amazed by what he found. Humans had 2 kidneys when most species had 1. Their livers could regenerate if damaged. They could survive losing significant amounts of blood. They could function with broken bones for hours or even days if necessary. Their pain tolerance was extremely high compared to most coalition species. Your species is built for survival, he told Dr. Sora Nam one day. Everything about your biology suggests adaptation to extreme conditions. Earth is not an easy world, she admitted. We have predators, diseases, natural disasters, extreme weather. Our ancestors had to be tough to survive. Those who were not tough died. Evolution selected for resilience. But the biggest shock came when Dr. Sora Nam invited him to what she called a sporting event. They went to a large arena filled with thousands of cheering humans. In the center was a cage, and inside the cage, 2 humans were fighting. Ralvin watched in horror as the 2 humans punched each other in the face repeatedly. One grabbed the other and slammed him to the ground. They rolled around, each trying to choke or break the other's limbs. Blood splattered on the mat. The crowd cheered louder. This is entertainment? Ralvin's translator barely managed to convey his shock. You watch your own people hurt each other for fun? It's called mixed martial arts, Dr. Sora Nam explained. It's a sport. Both fighters are trained professionals. They know the risks. They choose to do this. One fighter got the other in a chokehold. The trapped fighter struggled for several seconds, then tapped the mat 3 times. The other fighter immediately let go. A referee stepped in and declared a winner. The 2 fighters stood up, hugged each other, and smiled. They were friends. Ralvin could not comprehend it. They were trying to render each other unconscious. They caused each other pain and injury. And now they embrace? They're testing themselves, Dr. Sora Nam said. Pushing their limits. Seeing how far they can go. It's not about hatred. It's about respect. They respect each other's skill and courage. That night, Ralvin sent his first report to the Coalition Council. He struggled to find the right words. How could he explain that humans voluntarily engaged in what most species would consider gladiatorial combat? How could he make them understand that humans saw this as normal? even honorable. The next day, General Quan took him to a training facility where human children were practicing martial arts. Children. They were teaching combat skills to beings who were not even fully grown. We start young, General Quan explained. Not because we're violent people, but because we believe everyone should know how to defend themselves. It's part of our culture. Millions of humans practice martial arts. It teaches discipline, respect, self-control. Ralvin watched a girl who could not have been more than 8 years old throw a boy twice her size to the ground, using a technique that manipulated his balance. The boy got up, bowed to her respectfully, and they reset to practice again. On most coalition worlds, teaching children to fight would be considered abuse, Ralvin said quietly. On Earth, not teaching them would be considered neglect, General Quan replied. The galaxy is dangerous. We want our children to be ready. Over the following days, Ralvin tested human physical capabilities more thoroughly. He recorded their running speeds, their lifting capacity, their endurance. He measured their reaction times, their healing rates, their pain thresholds. Every test revealed the same truth. Humans were far more capable than their coalition application had suggested. Not because they had lied, but because they did not realize how unusual they were. They thought every species was like them. He also studied Earth's history. The wars, the conflicts, the struggles, but also the cooperation, the art, the culture. He learned about human philosophy, their ideas about honor and duty and sacrifice. He read their literature and was struck by how often their stories celebrated underdogs who triumphed against impossible odds. You admire those who struggle, he observed to Dr. Soranam. Your heroes are not always the strongest or the smartest. Sometimes they are simply the most determined. We value perseverance, she agreed, never giving up even when things look hopeless. It's a very human trait. One evening, Dr. Soranam took him to her laboratory. She showed him a holographic display of Earth compared to other coalition homeworlds. Earth was highlighted in red. This is what some xenobiologists call a death world, she explained. A planet where conditions are harsh enough that evolution produces extremely resilient species. Earth has higher gravity than average, more predators, more diseases, more natural disasters. Life here had to become tough or die out. And humans emerged from this environment, Ralvin said, beginning to understand. We're the apex predators of a death world, Dr. Soranam said. We're not the strongest. We're not the fastest. But we're the best at adapting, at persisting, at surviving. We're endurance specialists. In a short sprint, many species can beat us. But in a long marathon, we can outlast almost anyone. Ralvin thought about Cadet Yuna Kim. She had not been trying to hurt General Vektar. She had been reacting with the reflexes of a death world predator when threatened. And even then she had held back, using only enough force to stop the threat. His final report took him 3 days to write. He wanted to be careful with his words because this would change everything. The Coalition Council needed to understand what they were dealing with. When he was done, he sent it through encrypted channels. Then he met with General Quan and Dr. Soranam one last time before returning to Coalition space. What will your report say? General Quan asked. The truth, Ralvin replied. That humans are a death world species with physical and mental capabilities far exceeding their current classification. That your culture values combat skill and physical resilience in ways most species do not. That you train from childhood to be warriors even in peacetime. And that you intentionally hold back your full capabilities when... Jiwan Park was there, crying happy tears and talking rapidly about how amazing the fight was. Commander Hyun Lee stood nearby, arms crossed, looking proud. The alien general slapped the human cadet. She broke his wrist in 4 seconds. 6 months had passed since the duel. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Yuna walked through the academy corridors and felt the difference every day. Alien cadets who used to ignore human cadets now watched them with careful respect. Some even approached asking for training partnerships. The changes went far beyond just attitudes. The academy had created new combat courses specifically designed around human abilities. Commander Hyun Lee was now head of the Close Combat Division, teaching both humans and aliens. His classes were always full with waiting lists that stretched for months. Yuna had graduated at the top of her class 3 months ago. Now she wore the uniform of a junior officer with the rank of lieutenant. The promotion had come faster than normal, but as Ambassador Daeho Choi explained, nothing about her situation was normal. She was a symbol now, whether she wanted to be or not. Today she stood in a briefing room with 9 other beings. 5 were human, 4 were aliens, This was Terra Squad, the special operations unit that General Vector had promised to form. They had been training together for 2 months, learning to work as a team. Lieutenant Jiwon Park sat to Yuna's right. Her best friend had specialized in intelligence and communications. She was the person who would coordinate information during missions. Next to her was Sergeant Minho Kang, a huge human man who specialized in heavy weapons. He could carry equipment that would require 2 soldiers from most other species. Corporal Unji Seo was their medical specialist. She was small and quiet, but absolutely brilliant. She had studied xenobiology and could treat injuries across dozens of different species. The final human member was Lieutenant Taejin Ro, their technical expert who could hack systems or repair damaged equipment in the field. The 4 alien members represented species that had proven compatible with human working styles. There was Krell, a Corvani with 3 eyes who specialized in reconnaissance. Next was Thera, a bird-like Avixen female who was their pilot and navigation expert. Zena was a crystalline Vesh who could interface directly with computer systems. And finally, there was Vorn, a massive bear-like Urgath who served as their heavy assault specialist alongside Minho. General Vector entered the room, and everyone stood at attention. His wrist had healed perfectly, leaving no lasting damage. If anything, the injury seemed to have made him more respected among his own people. Draknari culture valued warriors who could acknowledge when they had been bested. "Sit," he commanded. Everyone obeyed. "Today we receive our first mission. But first I want to discuss something important. The galaxy is changing. 6 months ago, humans were considered a minor species with limited capability. Now they are recognized as Tier 2 combat specialists. This has created opportunities. It has also created problems." He activated a holographic display showing a star map. Several systems were highlighted in red. These are locations where human military advisors have been requested. Trade agreements have improved for Earth. Your species is being taken seriously now. This is good. The display changed to show different systems highlighted in yellow. But these are locations where anti-human sentiment is growing. Some species feel threatened by your rise. They see humans as potential rivals or even enemies. The Zerathi Empire especially has been vocal in their opposition to human expansion. Yuna knew about the Zerathi. They were a warrior culture that had dominated coalition military for centuries. They did not like being challenged by newcomers. There have been incidents, General Vector continued. Trade disputes where humans were treated unfairly. Military exercises where human units were deliberately given disadvantageous positions. And 3 days ago, a human cargo ship was attacked by pirates in the Outer Rim. But intelligence suggests the pirates had backing from someone more organized. The mood in the room darkened. Jiwon Park leaned forward. "Are you saying someone is deliberately targeting humans, sir?" "I'm saying it is a possibility we must consider. The galaxy does not like rapid change. Your species change things very rapidly." Ambassador Daeho Choi entered the briefing room. He looked tired, like he had not slept much lately. "The situation is delicate. Earth's position in the coalition is stronger than ever. But that strength has made us targets. We need to prove that humans can work cooperatively with other species, that we are not a threat to the established order." General Vector nodded. "Which brings us to Terra Squad. You are the first mixed species unit commanded jointly by a human and a Draknari. You represent what the coalition should be, different species working together, using their unique strengths to accomplish what none could do alone." He changed the display to show a space station. 4 days ago, the research station Omega-7 went dark. It is located in the Outer Rim, in a region with minimal coalition presence. The station had 37 scientists from various species studying anomalous energy readings. "We lost all contact." Krell the Corvani studied the display with his 3 eyes. "Pirates? Possibly. But the station had good defenses and experienced security. It would take significant force to overwhelm them. We are deploying Terra Squad to investigate, assess the situation, and rescue any survivors." "What is the timeline?" Yuna asked. "Fast. We leave in 3 hours. This is your first real mission together. Show me what you can do." The briefing continued for another hour, going over the station's layout, potential threats, and extraction procedures. When it ended, the squad moved to the equipment bay to prepare. Minho Kang was checking his heavy weapons, a massive rifle that could punch through armored walls. "So we are walking into an unknown situation with possible hostile forces. Sounds fun. Sounds terrifying." Yoonji Seo muttered as she packed her medical supplies. Yuna was checking her own equipment when Jiwon Park approached. Are you nervous? Yes, Yuna admitted. This is different from training. Real people might be hurt or dying. We have to save them. We will, Jiwon said with confidence. We have trained for this. We are ready. Thera, the Avixen pilot, joined them. Her feathers were sleek and golden, her eyes sharp. I have flown in dangerous situations before, but never with humans. I am curious to see how you perform under real pressure. We are curious too, Yuna said honestly. 3 hours later, Terra Squad boarded their ship, a fast assault cruiser called the Swift Strike. Thera took the pilot seat with Xena assisting with navigation. The rest of the squad secured themselves in the passenger bay. General Vectar was coming with them as an observer and advisor, though he had made it clear that Yuna was in tactical command. The jump to hyperspace was smooth. They would reach Omega-7 in 6 hours. During the flight, Yuna reviewed the mission parameters repeatedly. She needed to be ready for anything. Taejin Ro, their technical specialist, was analyzing the last transmissions from the station. Strange. The communications did not cut off suddenly like a catastrophic failure. They degraded over several hours, like someone was systematically shutting down systems. Pirates taking their time to loot the place? Minho suggested maybe. But why shut down communications first? That gives away that something is wrong. Jiwon Park looked up from her intelligence reports. Unless they wanted us to know something was wrong. Unless this is a trap. Everyone went quiet. Yuna felt a chill run down her spine. Explain. Think about it, Jiwon said. Terra Squad is famous now. The first human-led special operations unit. If someone wanted to make a statement against human expansion, what better way than to ambush our first mission? General Vectar, who had been sitting quietly, rumbled his agreement. The thought had occurred to me as well, which is why I am here. If this is a trap, they will face more than they expect. The rest of the flight was tense. Everyone prepared in their own way. Minho cleaned his weapons. Yoonji reviewed medical procedures. Krell meditated using a Korvani technique that helped focus all 3 eyes simultaneously. Yuna found herself doing breathing exercises that Commander Hyun Lee had taught her. In through the nose, out through the mouth, slow and steady. They dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Omega-7 appeared on sensors. The station was dark, no active signals, no power signatures. It looked dead. Life signs? Yuna asked. Xena, interfacing with the ship's sensors, spoke in her crystalline voice. Detecting minimal life signs. Very faint. Possibly survivors in emergency shelter. Also detecting another ship on the far side of the station. Corvette class, armed. Who does it belong to? No identification. It is running silent, a trap. Definitely a trap. Yuna made a decision. Thera, can you approach from the opposite side? Use the station as cover? Yes, but if they have sensors watching, they will know we are here. They already know. But let us not make it easy for them. Everyone, combat ready. Yoonji, prepare for casualties. Minho Vorn, be ready to breach if we meet resistance. Jiwon, monitor all communications. If they transmit anything, I want to know immediately. Understood, Jiwon said, her fingers already flying over her console. Thera piloted the Swift Strike with skill, using the station's bulk to mask their approach. They docked on the side opposite the unknown Corvette. The docking clamps engaged.